What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be sharing my birth story. I have a son. He is 2 years old. I know it's kind of late to be doing my birth story, but I honestly wasn't ready to talk about it because I was very traumatized. I had a really bad experience. I am very thankful that I was healthy. Tyler was healthy coming out. Not to be confused, I didn't have baby girl yet. I'm still very much so. Grab some snacks, grab a beverage, grab some tequila because you're gonna need it after this one. So my water breaks. I didn't know that was pretty rare. It's not very common that your water breaks. It's more so common to be induced. So yeah, my water breaks 2 weeks prior to my due date, and we were not prepared at all. I literally just went on maternity leave, like probably the week prior. We just moved into our house. So, and the week before we just had our baby shower. So everything still wasn't unpacked. Nursery wasn't set up. And that night was wild. I remember like just turning around in bed and like just a gush of liquid just comes out, and like I just like freeze, and I'm like terrified because I thought like I was having a miscarriage or something, or there was blood. And I ran to the bathroom and it was just like, you know, clear water with like a tinge of blood, which is normal. And like I'm telling Betta, and Betta's like, okay, let's call the hospital. So he calls the nurse line, and they tell me that I need to come in. So I'm like packing my hospital bag. My hospital bag wasn't even packed. While I'm packing the hospital bag, Betta runs downstairs and he's trying to install the car seat. We didn't even have the car seat set up. And he's like trying to figure it out. He's YouTubing it, how to put in a car seat. Totally new parents, guys. And hospital, get admitted. Had to wait a little bit, but not too long. And then finally we get in there. They make sure that my water actually broke and I didn't pee. And Betta was like joking around about it, saying that like, oh dang, you probably just peed yourself. I was like, no way, I would never pee myself. So yeah, I ended up, my water did break and they admitted me. Had to stay overnight. Nothing really happened. I didn't feel any contractions, nothing. So stayed overnight, woke up in the morning and couldn't really sleep because I was very anxious. I tried my best to sleep, but I don't know, I was just really anxious to see what was going on, if he was okay. And woke up in the morning, walked around the hospital for a bit to try to like propel the contractions. Nothing happened. They actually came in and offered me Cytotec, which would speed up the contractions and the labor. And we approved it. So I took a dose of that and that worked really quickly. They put a belly monitor on me to monitor my contractions. When it started going downhill is when my contractions started getting closer together. I believe they only checked me once in like the beginning stages, and I think I was like 3 centimeters, and they didn't check me at all again. And a part of that was, I don't believe my belly monitor was displaying correctly my contractions. And I think that's why like there wasn't any type of urgency. I also feel like when I started progressing further along in my labor too, they kind of like downplayed how much I was in pain because I was a new mom, which is BS to me because I honestly have a pretty high pain tolerance. Like, I could take a lot of pain, and it takes a lot for me to like to be like in unbearable pain, if that makes sense. I'm not a masochist or anything, but I'm pretty tough. So when I'm like over here, like bent over the bed, like dying, and like, I just like, it reaches to a point where like the contractions were no longer in the front anymore, and they migrated to the back, and I started having back labor, which I didn't know that was a thing. I thought all labor was the same. And back labor is very, very excruciating. It feels like mauling your back, basically. Like, it's just excruciating pain, and like even after the contraction like subsides, like it's still like a lingering pain until the next contraction hits. So it was so terrible, guys. Like, I honestly get like PTSD just thinking about going through that again. One thing that was robbed from me too was having a water birth. That's something that I took a class for, and that was part of my birthing plan, is to have a water birth, and I got robbed of that because they weren't monitoring me correctly. At a point, they were checking my blood pressure and like my vitals and all that, and my contractions were getting so close together that she couldn't even check correctly because my heart rate would just like spike because I would be just in so much pain. And so they thought that like I had preeclampsia. They brought somebody in to draw blood for me, which this dumb didn't know how to freaking draw blood because she stuck me like 3-4 different times. Oh my gosh, it was just a nightmare. Excuse my language. So I had to deal with that too, and I couldn't really talk, you know, like I was just focusing on surviving. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but that's honestly like what I remember my mindset being is I was just trying to survive, to make sure. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. Sorry, y'all. Probably should have recorded this when I'm not so hormonal and pregnant, but yeah, I was just trying to, my mindset was, I was just trying to survive, to make sure that my son got here just healthy and safe, and that he was just depending on me. So it was beyond me, it was beyond the pain that drove me. It was more so like the urgency, like I need to stay alive to make sure that my baby gets here safely. And I know that sounds like super dramatic or whatever, but like that's the reality of it. Labor and birth, delivery is no joke. It is probably the most challenging yet beautiful experiences I have ever went through. So let's continue on. So they weren't monitoring me correctly, and we're going on like 6-7 hours of labor, and by that time I'm like, I feel like I couldn't even stand. Like, I'm trying to do like all of these different like motions, like bounce on the ball. I'm like bearing my weight on the hospital bed and like trying to move my hips and like a formation 8, you know, doing all these things, and like I just feel like I'm going to collapse. Couldn't lay on my back on my side because, like I said, I was having back labor, so it just made it worse. And then Beck comes in and I look at him and just like half alive, and I'm like, babe, I think I need an epidural. And then he was like, no, babe, it's okay. You could do this. You got this, because I had been coaching him like prior and like telling him like, you need to advocate for me, and you know, don't let me get an epidural if I don't need it, because I want to try to have a natural birth, you know. So he was saying that out of my wishes, but at that point I was like, how dare you question me? Go get the nurse right now and tell her I need an epidural. So like I looked at him like he's freaking crazy, and I was like, no, go get the nurse right now, I need an epidural. And so he's like, okay. And so he goes out and he gets the nurse. The nurse comes, oh wait, let's back up. So prior to that, it was like, I want to say around like the 6th hour of laboring, where your body feels like your body will naturally do what it needs to do. And I felt like my body like pushing down. And mind you, like I didn't do any research. I'm a first time mom, and like I didn't know, like I knew, but I didn't know that it's go time. And so like my body has been doing that for like the past hour, and the nurse comes and she, you know, she's checking on my vitals and like seeing how everything is moving along. And I tell her, she's like, how are you feeling? I was like, I feel like I need a push. And you know, mind you, I can't like really talk because I'm in a lot of pain. But I managed to like tell her that. I was like, I feel like I need a push. And she doesn't do anything. So then, you know, the 7th hour comes around. I tell Betta to go get the nurse and tell them that I need an epidural, because the way that I was thinking is, okay, this is going on like almost 8 hours, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to muscle through this like for 8 more hours or however long he's gonna take to get here. And so he goes and grabs the nurse. My midwife actually comes in. That's another thing, is like you really don't see your midwife or the person that's going to deliver your baby. Like she popped in to introduce herself like in the beginning of my labor, and then like I didn't see her at all. So she actually came in, and this trying to talk to me, excuse my language, but she's trying to talk to me, and she's like, I know that you said that you wanted a natural birth, and you know, if we check you right now and see how far along you are, would you still want an epidural? And I'm like looking at her like, check me, okay? Fucking check, do something. And so she checks me. When I pull down my underwear, they call it the bloody show. Didn't know that was a thing, but I was like scared because it was a lot of blood, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, is something wrong? And I was thinking that, and then they were like all like cheering, and they were like, oh, she got her bloody show. And I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell is going on? And so I get on the bed, excuse me, and she checks me, and I'm 9 centimeters, guys. 9 centimeters. So that pushing, I'm ready to have him at any point. Mind you, I'm still in triage. I'm still in the triage room. They haven't even moved me over to my water birthing unit. They actually just moved me over to a room that was available. They wanted me to walk to the other room. They weren't even going to put me in a wheelchair but it was like, no, she needs a wheelchair. She can't walk. And so they put me in a wheelchair, and obviously I couldn't get an epidural because I was too far along. And took me to the room, was pushing for 20 minutes, and he came. It just gives you like a second wind, like, okay, it's go time. Like, I'm ready to get this baby out of me. And so like I'm flipping around in different moves to try to like, get him to come out, and I ended up switching over to my back. It was weird because my back labor didn't end up coming back when I was ready to push. I think it's because he turned around. So the reason why you experience back labor is because the baby's back of the head is pushing up against your spine, and he's sunny side. So he needs to be flipped around in order for him to come out face down. And I think he flipped last moment, and that's why I wasn't experiencing that back labor anymore. Thank God for those last 20 minutes. And I pushed for 20 minutes, and oh my gosh, when that head came out, whew, I freaking screamed. I could feel everything. And then it was just one last push, and then the rest of his body came out. They put him on my chest. I had to have 1 stitch, so it wasn't too bad. I'm glad that I didn't like rip like from my freaking vag to my butthole. I've heard horror stories like that, so that's something that I was scared of too. But thank God that didn't happen. I just had to get 1 minor stitch, and then he came, and all the pain just went away. Another thing they don't tell you is that you have to give birth to your placenta too. So like after I gave birth to Tyler, she was like, okay, 1 last push for your placenta. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And so like I pushed again, pushed my placenta out. And like at that point, oh my gosh, I was so exhausted, so annoyed, just like all these emotions. And like she's just like, do you want to see your placenta? And I'm like, no. Now I wish that I would have. I'm definitely going to when I have baby girl, but yeah, at that point I was just so like irritated with the staff. Another thing that they do too is when you're in the last moments of labor, and they like to do this thing where they ask for your consent if students can come in and gather information and just have it be a learning experience. And you can decline, but I was not even thinking. I just wanted to get this baby out of me. That I felt like they took advantage of that, because if I was in my right state of mind, I would have been like, hell no. I mean, there was a reason why I only wanted Betta in the room. So I feel like they do that because like it's easy for you to like say yes because you're just like in a very heightened situation. So I didn't appreciate that at all either. St. Joseph Hospital. But yeah, anyways, we had Tyler and we went to the 16th floor. Couldn't really sleep still because even though I was so exhausted, because I just, you know, you always want to like check on him to make sure like he's doing okay. And I just like couldn't believe that he came out of me. Like I was like, wow, like I was just in awe. So if I could give some tips, I would give 3 tips. One tip is to make sure that you have a good support system in the room with you. Who you decide to be in the room with you can definitely change your whole experience. For me, I decided I just wanted my husband to be in the room with me, and that was the best decision that I made. Just reviewing the footage, like he is such a force. Like he's over here cheering me on, coaching me along, coaching me to breathe through every contraction, rubbing my back. Just perfect in every way. You know, shout out to my husband. He is a real one, and he's a rider for sticking that out throughout the whole 8 hours. Number 2, I would say to at every prenatal appointment to check on the position of the baby. Depending on the position of the baby, if you're like me, where the baby's head is pushing up against your spine, it creates a lot of lower back pain and can eventually lead into back labor. Back labor is very, very, very intense and painful. So if there's ways to prevent it, like going to the chiropractor, stretching out your glutes, your hips, your back with a foam roller, doing different exercises to let your belly hang, to get the baby to flip around. So there's a lot that you can do to lead up to that to prevent it. Number 3, I would say to make a birthing plan, and that kind of goes back to the first point or the first tip that I made. A birthing plan is very important because it not only lets the people in the room know your wishes, but they could advocate on your behalf and be in your corner. And that not only goes for you know, your family or your friends that are there to support you, but the staff, so the nurses, the doctors. It's very important. So just wishing all the mamas a healthy and safe pregnancy and delivery. But thank you guys for tuning in to this video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video. Hit the notification button for more videos to come out. And I'll see you guys on my next video.